Alrighty, I believe we are recording. Audio working, maybe. Don't know, never done this before. Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Matt Foley. I know it says Matthew, but just call me Matt. That's how I prefer to be called. And I wanted to make a short video, because I've done a bunch of shorts, I've done 3, where I did a couple impersonations and an audition, but I wanted to do just an actual video to kind of get you guys more introduced to me, and hopefully me introduced to you. So feel free to comment any questions you have or anything, and I'll try to answer them next time I do one of these things. But the main reason for this is I wanted to share some of the tricks I've learned when I first started doing voice work. So obviously I am not a voice actor, so if you don't want to take these tips, you want to go do something else, go ahead. I just wanted to give you the opportunity because a lot of these tricks I learned from actual voice actors, not personally, but I did learn these tricks from voice actors such as D. Bradley Baker, like Steve Bloom, who are both huge mentors to me when it comes to voice acting. Sam Witwer is another one, but I wanted to share these few tricks that I learned in case any of you, whether professionally, would like to look at voice acting or just doing something fun things with your friends, which is how I actually started learning I could do this stuff with my voice, because I started doing stuff with my friends and they were like, you should try to pursue that as a career. And so that's what this whole channel is trying to do. But either way, to get into the actual tips and tricks that I learned, this video is mostly going to be about accents and how you can change your voice. So this is my normal voice right now. Some people say I have an accent because I'm from Virginia. I personally don't see an accent. Now, I will say, for instance, if you are from Virginia or from another southern, not like direction-wise, but accent-wise, more of a southern type state, I feel like you can make a western type voice better than you could where some people, I'm sure, can do fantastic. Like, for instance, Daniel Craig, he's British, and he can do one of the best southern voices I've ever heard in Knives Out. But, anywho, to get into that, so this is my normal voice right now, but if you want to do, let's just break it down right here. I'm new to this, in case you haven't tell. That's why all my thoughts and all my stuff is everywhere but where it should be. But let's just break it down into everything. So if you want to do a southern voice, it's fairly easy. Now granted, I can't speak to females because I'm not a female, I'm a male, so it's easier to talk about male voices than it would be for female voices. Maybe one day I'll get a female voice actor on here and she can tell you some tips. But anywho, so for a male voice, if you're trying to do it depends on the kind of voice you want to do. Because every cowboy, every western person, they're going to have a different voice. So for instance, you can just slow your voice down a lot and try to get it a little bit more deeper sounding, kind of like this, and you kind of want to draw out your words. So that kind of right there is just a little bit of a southern drawl. It's what you would hear in most westerns, I feel like, but at the same time, you can change that and you'll get a different voice. If that makes sense. I hope it does. But I'm going to be switching from my normal voice and voices in this video. So you can slow your voice down like that and just try to make it deeper and give a little bit more of a drawl to your words. So try to make them a bit longer. So for instance, try to make your voice sound like this and draw out your words. And that gives you a really good southern voice in my mind. And it's when you can also go into other voices. You can do if you master that, you can pretty much do a bunch of other voices. Kind of do not watch the movie Unfiltered. Do not. But one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Western movies of all time is Tombstone. And Doc Holliday, one of the best characters in all of film. And you can basically do a pretty good impersonation of Doc Holliday. I posted a video of what I did. But that's why you can get into his voice. If you just slow your voice down a little bit, not make it as deep because he didn't have a super deep voice, but that's how you kind of get to the I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you. And that's kind of... Now, granted, I don't sound anything like Val Kilmer, but you get his accent down, and then keep practicing, you can get a good Val Kilmer. But that's how you get a good Western voice, which I'm not super good at. As I said, that's basic. That is just the basic. That's all you're going to find on my channel is just the basics until I learn more from more people and just as I keep doing this. But anyway, so that is how you can get a good Southern voice. Is just slow down your voice, make your voice a bit deeper, and draw out your words. And as I said, that's... I feel like if you slow it down and talk like this, that kind of gets you a good Cassidy, or McCree if you prefer, from Overwatch. That's the basic accent I think Matt Mercer used, and that was his Western voice. He just slowed it down like this and then gave it a good drawl. That you have McCree or Cassidy. And moving on to a different voice. I would say the best voice I am able... This isn't an accent, but I've been able to change my voice like this. And a trick I learned to doing it... This is just... If you want a good, just monster or guttural voice, you can go to anything. And I learned a lot from Steve Bloom and D. Bradley Baker in this aspect. Both of them played many monsters, many creatures. And... You literally just get your voice sounding like this. Which is very close to Baraka from Mortal Kombat 1, which I don't play the games, but I follow Steve Bloom, so I know his voice for Baraka. And I couldn't do that when I first started, and you need to be very careful if you're using that voice, because you will get something... it's what I like to call blood throat. Because your voice gets so raw, and your throat and vocal cords will get so raw, and you'll start tasting blood. You're not actually bleeding in your throat. It's just that's what you taste, and so that's what I've called it. And I think Peter Cullen, who is the voice of Optimus Prime, has called it something similar to that when he was doing King Kong. But I was not able to do that when I first started voice acting. I could make my voice sound very deep, very solemn, and very deep like this, which is more of a whisper. And that's if you want more of like a intimidating villain, a more horror kind of genre, I would say, is you make it very low, very whispery. I don't think whispery is a word, but we're going to go with it. That was basically all I could do. I couldn't get the guttural sound. So when you're starting out, a trick you can learn is take both of your your pointer and your middle on both of your hands, or you can just use one. I've done both. Take them and you put them right here on your throat. You can probably feel right here where I'm... Probably hard to tell because I have a beard, but trying to right here, right at this like the middle of your neck, you can kind of feel your fingers will go in there naturally, and that gives you a little bit more space, a little bit more of training wheels into that where I don't need to do that anymore. But you do that and push in, not super hard. You don't want to push super hard, but push in just a little bit. And you get this voice. I am Baraka. Or you can do any number of villain voices like that. Like, for instance, we are Venom. Any number of monster voices you can do. You can play with that voice. You can do whatever you want with it. It's super fun. A lot of people, when I first started doing that, we were doing a Narnia audio drama, not obviously to put out in public, just something we could listen to with us and our families. But I always said, I can be the werewolf from Prince Caspian because I can do a good voice. And I played my monster voice for them, and all of them were like, is that even you? And I learned I had something there. That's why I kept playing with my monster voice. With the werewolf, it's just one of my favorite lines I can do with that voice. It works so well. If you have not read Prince Caspian, or Narnia in general, pause the video, go do that now. Everyone in the world needs to read Narnia, in my mind. Everyone in the world should read Narnia at least once, if not 20 times. But anywho, you will know the werewolf from Prince Caspian, and one of his great lines that you could really have fun with this voice is where he's introducing himself. And so they don't know he's a werewolf yet, he's just saying what he can do. And it's basically just I can sleep on a frozen lake and not freeze. I can drink a river of blood and not burst. Show me your enemies, O king. You can really play, and if I took the time, I could really draw that out and just have fun with that, but for the sake of time, and this is just a informative video that I want to hopefully help people out with, that is the case for that. And that's not the exact quote, that's just from what I remember. But you can have a lot of fun with that voice. You can do so many characters, so many monsters. You can do anything you want with that voice, and that's also, you can use that voice and just go lower, kind of like the whisper voice I was talking about. You can play with that a bit more, and you get, for anyone who knows Black Speech from Lord of the Rings, you get the Shlagristu which is a part of the line, not the full line. I can post that if people want. From the Hobbit movies where Benedict Cumberbatch was using Black Speech, but the whisper voice is very good for that. Just lower your voice, get a bit of the guttural. You don't want a lot, because if you're using your guttural voice, it's going to be loud. It's very difficult to have a whisper voice, kind of like, so, I don't know, I can try to do it now. You're kind of talking like this. And that just doesn't work. You kind of sound like a 90-year-old man or something is what it winds up sounding like. 90-year-old man. Which, if you want to do that kind of voice, you can. But I've had trouble doing that in a whisper. I'm always just better at it when it's loud, so that's what that voice is. If I want to use a softer tone, I do the whisper voice to get a more, throw a little bit of guttural noise in there, and you're just perfect for whatever voice you want. You can play with it and do whatever you want. I think I'm focusing too much on this voice. I apologize. Like I said, I want to be as informative as I can with these. This is also my first time doing this, so pardon if I go long or come back to certain subjects. I'm new to this. I'm learning. I'm learning just like you guys are. But that is the reason why I'm kind of jumping around, and my thoughts are everywhere. But I did want to focus more on that voice because, as I said, you can do so much if you learn just to do the guttural things. And the warning I was talking about earlier is you got to be very careful with that voice. So, for instance, the werewolf from Narnia, you could do that no problem because you can get your lines done. You can say that he has probably, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 sentences of lines. And so you could have that done probably, if you want to be perfect about it, I would say the maximum time you need is 20 minutes. If you want to be perfect about everything. But really, I feel like you can get it done in 10 minutes. But I would not go longer than an hour doing that voice. Because as I said, that's how you get blood throat. And even Steve Bloom, pardon my mispronunciation, even Steve Bloom has said when he's doing Baraka, he said, I can do that voice for maybe an hour before my voice just gives out completely. And that's true. And that he's a professional doing this, but that's true about anyone doing any kind of voice like that. When you're really exercising your vocal cords like that, you got to be really careful, because if you go too far, it's going to cause a lot of problems with your vocal cords, with your throat, and you just don't want any of that. So you can do a lot of voices with that menacing voice. You could do Venom, you could do Baraka, you could do, if you do a whisper voice, you could do the Nazgul, or just play with it and start inventing characters for it. I don't even care. Just invent, you could even try giving a bit of an accent. It might be difficult because it's so guttural, but as I said, you could play with it and do whatever you want, but you got to be very careful. That is the only voice I feel you need to be very careful with. When you're using such a guttural sound from your throat, you got to be really careful with that. I cannot push that enough because I don't want anyone to try this and hurt their voice. But that is why I have to give fair warning. And now we can move on to something else. Everyone's probably like, finally he's moving on. But to move on, a voice, this is an accent actually. There are 2 accents you can do. You could do the English accent, which I'm not talking about American, I'm talking about English, which I am not great at. I can do a butler voice, I guess is what you would say, kind of like the, oh yes, whatever you need, yes, and that was terrible. But I can play with that more if I had more time to think about it. I can play with that more, and that enables you to get better at it. I can't do a British accent like for when we're doing Narnia with my friends, I can't do a British accent, so I wind up just doing my voice. I might raise it higher for younger people, or I might raise it lower, not raise it, lower it for deeper voiced characters. But that is pretty easy to do. A butler voice, you can see it anytime on TV or listen to old time radio shows like me, and you can develop a pretty good voice. That's the best way to learn voice acting, is to watch people do it, listen to their voices, listen to how they do it. If they have any tips, if they've done anything like I'm doing now, watch it, listen to them. They'll probably explain it a lot better than I can. But the other accent that I feel like I'm pretty good at is I can kind of make my voice delve into a little bit of an Irish tone, which is kind of like this. It's just your normal voice, but make it a bit lighter in the tone, and then you just kind of have a little bit of fun with it. So you could say anything. Take a line from any movie. I don't know really any movie. I know Braveheart, but that's not Irish, except for the one guy, and I don't really know any of his lines that don't involve cursing. But you can really have fun with your voice if you do it like this, and that just gives a bit of an Irish drawl to it. And I feel like I might be butchering this. I very well might be, but this to me just is a pretty good Irish accent, and so that's how I've done it. Which all you have to do, as I said, is just make your voice a little bit lighter or make it a little bit lower, depending on what kind of tone and what kind of character you're playing. And there you have your Irish accent. You could also do a bit of a Scottish tone, which you kind of just draw out the words a bit deeper. I have trouble doing a Scottish accent, but the Irish one is very easy for my voice to fall into. And if any of you Irish are watching, I apologize if I am butchering your accent, but this is just how I've always done it. This is how I've seen and listened to people do it, and so that's how I talk when I'm doing an Irish accent. And that is just very easy. You don't have to touch your throat, or you don't have to touch anything. It is just merely giving whatever tone you want to your voice, and then adding a bit of a trill to your voice. And that gives a good Irish sounding accent in my mind. And I feel like that covers most of the accents. This video is longer than I wanted it to be, but as I said, hopefully now that I've explained these things, hopefully we'll get to shorter videos in the future. If there is any questions people have, anything you didn't understand in what I was explaining, because I'm sure I explained it poorly, let me know in the comments. I will be more than happy to answer any questions people have. I feel like that's about it. If you thought this video was helpful, or if you just enjoyed the channel, think about giving this channel a thumbs up, give it your subscription, and hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload, because I am going to try to upload as much as I can. And I'll be doing all kinds of videos, shorts, these kind of videos, informative, or I might just be talking with you guys. Maybe we'll do a live stream. I don't know. But if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload. I will see you all in the next one, whenever that might be. But I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you down the road in this channel's history and in my journey to become a voice actor. I really hope to see you guys down the road. I will see you all next time. Until God has us meet again, folks. Signing off.